life because that put me there with the rest of the players in the international level. Winning the World Cup with the team that we had was unbelievable. Bring them during the pre-season, the adaptation is over.
Patrick Vieira names 5 players he will never forgive. You would think 20 years would be enough time to let go, time to move on, but not for Vieira. This is not just about football rivalry. This is about betrayal, racism, humiliation, and spite. 5 men crossed lines that Vieira simply cannot forget, and what they did reveals the darker side of the beautiful game. Let's start with the player Vieira hated most. And no, it was not Roy Keane, it was Gary Neville. That might shock you. Most people assume Keane was public enemy number 1, but Vieira admitted it himself. Years after retirement, he looked Neville in the eye and said, "I hated you." Not past tense with a laugh, not banter, just pure, cold hatred from his playing days. Why? Because of what Neville did to Robert Pires. Pires was Arsenal's elegant French winger, slight build, skillful, not a physical player. He was the antithesis of the English hard man, and Neville targeted him. Week after week, match after match, rotational fouls, tactical kicks, constant intimidation designed to break his confidence. Vieira saw this as cowardice. In his mind, a hardman should tackle another hardman. If you want to be aggressive, face someone your own size. Going after a weaker player was dishonourable. It violated the code. Vieira became Pires' protector. He was the captain, the enforcer. When someone hurt his teammates, he took it personally, and Neville kept doing it. United's right back was not the most talented player. He compensated with aggression, but Vieira saw it differently. He saw a bully picking on someone who could not fight back. This hatred reached breaking point on the 1st of February 2005. Highbury, Arsenal versus Manchester United, the tunnel incident. Everyone remembers Roy Keane shouting, but it started because of Neville. Vieira admitted his confrontation was planned. He wanted to intimidate Neville before the match began. He approached him in the warm-up area, then again in the tunnel. Witnesses heard Vieira shouting, "You will not kick our players today." He was towering over Neville, making his presence felt. Vieira thought he was being clever, tactical, break United's resolve before kickoff. But his plan failed spectacularly because he woke up Roy Keane, and that leads us to the second name on the list. Roy Keane was different from Neville. Vieira respected Keane, but he never forgave him. This is the paradox. The 2 men were mirror images. Both captains, both enforcers, both box-to-box midfielders with explosive tempers and unwavering will. Between 1996 and 2005, they decided who won the Premier League, Arsenal or United, Vieira or Keane. Their clashes were battles for supremacy, territorial warfare. It was total war. Keane was the only player who could dominate Vieira, strip him of his invincibility, make him look ordinary. In any other midfield battle across Europe, Vieira was untouchable. Keane matched him, stride for stride, tackle for tackle. For someone as proud as Vieira, that was unforgivable. Not because Keane cheated, but because he won. He intimidated Arsenal when Vieira, as captain, should have been doing the intimidating. Every tackle was a challenge to Vieira's authority. Every shout was psychological warfare. Every victory was a dagger. Back to that tunnel in 2005. Neville ran back to the dressing room after Vieira confronted him. He told Keane what happened. For Keane, that was it. His loyalty code was simple. You go for one of us, you go for all of us. He exploded. Keane broke protocol, charged through the line of players. Referee Graham Poll had to restrain him. Keane was screaming, "We'll see out there." He told Vieira to shut his mouth. Vieira tried to stay calm, composed, drinking from a water bottle, maintaining that cool French exterior. But Keane had pierced the armour. Vieira's tactical plan had backfired. He wanted to weaken United. Instead, he gave Keane fuel, pure rage, and United won that match 4-2. They ended Arsenal's unbeaten home run. Keane's performance was possessed, masterclass. He channeled every ounce of fury into football. That night signalled the shift of power, away from the Invincibles, towards United. Vieira has to live with that. His aggression fueled his rival's greatest triumph. Keane became the man who beat him. They share laughs now on television, but those competitive scars remain. Vieira liked Keane because he was fair. He would kick you, but accept being kicked back. A warrior's code. Still, forgiveness, not in the competitive sense, never. Now we move to something far darker. Italy. The year 2000. moment. Champions League, Arsenal versus Lazio. This is where the unforgiven list shifts from rivalry to moral repulsion. From sporting grudges to human rights violations, two men from that Lazio team crossed lines that had nothing to do with sport. The first was Sinisa Mihajlovic, the 17th of October 2000, Stadio Olimpico in Rome. The atmosphere was poisonous, hostile. Lazio had supporters known for far-right leanings, neo-fascist tendencies. That toxicity spilled onto the pitch, and Mihajlovic was at the centre. Throughout the match, Vieira was subjected to verbal abuse, constant, relentless. After the final whistle, a visibly shaken Vieira revealed what happened. Mihajlovic had called him a black monkey, a black bastard, repeatedly, with intent. Vieira described it as the worst abuse he had ever heard from a fellow professional. He said, "You could see in his eyes that he was really thinking about what he said. It was very hurtful. This was not heat-of-the-moment anger, not something said in chaos and regretted immediately. This was deliberate, calculated, looking a man in the eye and stripping him of his humanity." Vieira, a symbol of multicultural France, was reduced to a racial slur by a supposed peer. What came next made it worse. Mihajlovic's defence was pathetic. He admitted using the words black as an insult, but claimed, "I might just as well have called him French." He argued that if he was racist, then Vieira was too for calling him a gypsy. This defence showed profound ignorance. Claiming black is just a descriptor while using it to dehumanise someone is grotesque. Mihajlovic issued a public apology, but only because he faced a police investigation. Italian law threatened a 3-year jail sentence for racial abuse, but later he retracted it. He claimed Vieira used him, that he needed to wipe the slate clean. Mihajlovic positioned himself as the victim of political correctness, of manipulation. He showed no genuine remorse. Mihajlovic passed away in December 2022. Tributes poured in for his footballing ability and his battle with leukemia, but the stain remains. There is no record of reconciliation with Vieira. For someone who became a symbol of diversity, forgiving such hatred without atonement would be a betrayal of his own identity. Mihajlovic is permanently unforgiven, and rightly so. But Mihajlovic was not the only Lazio player Vieira cannot forgive. There was Diego Simeone. If Mihajlovic was the voice of hate, Simeone was the hand of cynicism. The Argentine midfielder is now a renowned manager, but back then he was the engine of Lazio's dark arts. Vieira and Simeone were arguably the two best defensive midfielders in the world in 2000, but their philosophies were opposite. Vieira relied on power and technical dominance. He wanted to win by playing football. Simeone relied on grit and dark arts. He wanted to win by stopping opponents from playing, shirt pulls, nipping fouls, feigning injury. The matches against Lazio were marred by brawls, physical confrontations. Vieira's teammate, Gilas Grimandi, struck Simeone during the chaos, but Simeone conducted the chaos. He was the maestro of provocation. The animosity was so intense it spilled beyond the pitch. Reports confirm a physical altercation at a restaurant after the match. This is rare, but the fight to continue into the night suggests deep personal disdain. Vieira saw Simeone as trying to ruin the game. Simeone represents everything Vieira loathed: the exploitation of rules, anti-football, cynicism disguised as passion. The Lazio matches of 2000 were traumatic for Arsenal. They exposed their naivety in Europe. Simeone, as the face of that team, became the symbol of that trauma. He bullied Arsenal, not physically, but psychologically, dragging them into the mud where he reigned supreme. For a purist like Vieira, that was unforgivable. Now we come to the most recent entry, the freshest wound, Mario Balotelli. This feud is different, not between peers, but between manager and player, between a legend trying to mould the next generation and a talent refusing to be moulded. And it reveals why Vieira's unforgiven list is still active in 2025. Balotelli represents the antithesis of everything Vieira stood for: discipline, collective sacrifice, maximising talent. The conflict began in 2018 at Nice. Vieira took his first major European managerial role. Balotelli was the star striker, talented, charismatic, but his work rate was erratic. Vieira demanded high pressing and tactical discipline. Balotelli demanded freedom. The frustration boiled over. Vieira admitted, "When it comes to Mario, I want to answer back, or just slam him up against the wall, or leave him hanging by his collar on the coat rack." Violent imagery for a manager to use. It showed the depth of provocation. Vieira publicly stated, "Mario's mindset is not made for team sports. That is the ultimate insult from a captain like Vieira." It labels Balotelli not just as a bad player, but as a selfish person, someone who does not understand sacrifice. For Vieira, who worked harder than almost anyone to achieve his status, months. Balotelli was a waste. God-given gifts squandered through laziness. The feud seemed dormant until fate brought them together again. Late 2024, Genoa in Serie A, Balotelli joined in October under manager Alberto Gilardino. Shortly after, Gilardino was sacked. Patrick Vieira was appointed manager in November. A disastrous reunion. Vieira, remembering Nice, immediately froze Balotelli out. Over the following months, Balotelli made only 6 appearances, mostly as a substitute, playing 2 or 4 minutes. Balotelli was furious. He claimed Vieira was afraid of him, afraid that if Balotelli scored, he would be forced to play him more. He accused Vieira of just wanting to be the centre of attention. The tension simmered. Genoa sat at the bottom of the table. Results were awful. And in November 2025, Patrick Vieira was sacked. What happened next was unforgivable. Immediately after the announcement, Balotelli took to social media. He posted, "Karma is a bitch. God sees everything and takes care of the rest." He tagged Vieira. He praised the previous manager, Gilardino. He accused Vieira of selfishly exploiting the work of others, of lacking respect and passion. Balotelli was dancing on Vieira's grave. This was not just professional disagreement. This was public humiliation. Celebrating a man's job loss with a karma tweet breaches every code of professional ethics. For a traditionalist like Vieira, it is abhorrent. Balotelli's refusal to align with the team likely contributed to the poor results, to the sacking itself. And then to mock Vieira for it? That is betrayal. Professional sabotage. The wasted potential tragedy embodied in one man. So there you have them. 5 names: Gary Neville, Roy Keane, Sinisa Mihajlovic, Diego Simeone, Mario Balotelli. Each represents something Vieira stood against. Neville was cowardice, targeting the weak instead of the strong. Keane was the mirror, the man who beat him at his own game. Mihajlovic was hate, pure racial dehumanization. Simeone was the corruption of football, the dark arts disguised as passion. And Balotelli was disrespect, laziness, betrayal. These are not random grudges. They are reflections of Vieira's core values. He played football with a code. Strong protects weak, hard but fair. Respect the game. Maximize your gifts. When someone violated that code, Vieira remembered, he did not forget. He could not forget, because to forget would be to betray everything he built his career on. People talk about forgiveness like it is automatic, like time heals all wounds, like age brings wisdom and perspective. But some wounds are too deep. Some betrayals cut too close. Some lines, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. Neville kicked his friends, systematically, deliberately. Keane broke his dominance, proved he was not invincible. Mihajlovic called him a monkey, stripped him of his humanity. Simeone mocked the purity of the sport, made football ugly and cynical. Balotelli spat on his grave, celebrated his downfall publicly. These are not things you forgive, not if you are Patrick Vieira, not if you built your entire career on a code of honour. The warrior poet has hung up his boots, but he has not lowered his guard. His career is a tapestry woven with gold thread and blood-red thread, talent and conflict, trophies and feuds. And the 5 men on this list, they are not just enemies. They are the foils that defined his legend. Without them, Vieira would not be Vieira. The grudges shaped him as much as the victories. Perhaps more, because anyone can celebrate winning, but only the truly great carry their defeats and humiliations with such intensity that they become part of their identity. As of December 2025, following the fresh wounds from Genoa, the list remains active. Fresh wounds from Genoa, old scars from Highbury and Rome. Forgiveness might be human, but Patrick Vieira was never just human on a pitch. He was a warrior, and warriors do not forget betrayal. They carry it, they use it, they let it fuel them. Even now, decades later, the fire still burns. 5 names, 5 reasons, 1 unbreakable code. Patrick Vieira will never forgive.